Does it piss you off when you hear other people speaking foreign languages? When you walk into a place and all you hear is ching-chong, ching-chong, and bork, 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 does that really make you angry? Eh? Ching-chong 真是一个中文字吗? When you hear people speaking French, you adore it. But other languages you absolutely hate. Well, I've got news for you, buddy. You have a very serious language bias problem. Now, you may find it hard to believe, but there are some people out there like Aaron Schlossberg who happen to have temper tantrums in restaurants when they hear foreign languages being spoken. Now, I'm going to give you a few steps here so that you can overcome this problem. So, the first thing that we need to understand is culture. First of all, when we're born, actually, you know, the people from all over the world, they can learn any language that exists because humans have the same mouth and our tongue goes into all these different positions in the mouth. Think of it like ruts in the road. When you're born, your tongue kind of just gets stuck in the rut and in those 4 different positions for the rest of your life. And then when you hear something spoken by, you know, a different language spoken by somebody else, they're stuck in a different rut. And so their positions are a little bit different than you. So when you learn a new language, you kind of have to learn those new positions to put your tongue in. The color of your skin has nothing to do with the tongue positions in the mouth. I know, it blows your mind, but some people, they still haven't figured this out. So, around the world, what I've noticed in the news is that in the Anglophone world, in the Anglophone news, you'll hear about these stories from Australia, United States, Canada, the UK, but you rarely hear about it happening in other countries. That means it doesn't necessarily not happening in other countries. It is happening in other countries, and it really just comes down to culture. And so when people, they have this cultural bias, they're used to what feels comfortable to them. And so, you know, it's kind of built into us as human beings. Things that are different in the way that we act, because we connect with people that act and talk in the same way. So we build up this bias towards things that are different, and so it kind of creates a feeling of fear as well. And so we have to we need to get past that, because as the world is more integrated and we become more in communication with one another, this becomes really important. So, why do people speak foreign languages? Why don't they speak the official language? Well, first of all, official languages, you have to understand, they were created at some point in the past. It's true. I mean, German and Swedish and Finnish and French, Mandarin Chinese, these were kind of created off of like previous dialects. There's a good case study with Italian. I mean, there really isn't a language out there that doesn't have a standard variety that is different than the way people actually speak. So, if you think about it like this, if you're some guy from Des Moines, Iowa, and you're in an elevator in Beijing, China, and you happen to like strike up a conversation with the guy next to you in the elevator, and he's also from Des Moines, Iowa, are you guys going to be speaking Mandarin Chinese to each other, the official language of China? No, you're probably going to be speaking in your local dialect, whatever Des Moines, Iowa dialect sounds like, but let's say you had your own local way of speaking. If you grew up in the same place, you want to have that homegrown feeling, that feeling from home, like this guy's from my home. Maybe you guys went to the same high school. You have that connection. Why would you be speaking to him in a foreign language? He would think you're putting on airs. You're acting like a dumbass, really. You know, like, why are you acting like that? So here's the point, is that when some waitress in a restaurant connects with somebody and says, wow, you're from the same hometown, or we're from the same country, very far away, but we have a very similar background and upbringing, that brings people into a personal connection. Why the heck would they change to some official language to be speaking to each other when they would be using their home language, their home accent, and it creates that human connection? There's so much that we can learn from this legend, this man who just passed away, and his name is Anthony Bourdain. He traveled the world and he showed us that human connection between all of us. He sat down, made friends with people, and ate meals with them. And he shared the food from around the world. And there's so much we can learn from his love for humans around the world and his humanity. Learn from him. You know, take that to heart. So here's the next thing that I want you to do. I want you to follow 4 steps. And the first step is acknowledge that you have a problem. Now, maybe you've never said anything to anybody rude or out loud, but maybe internally you've thought to yourself, That language sounds ugly. I don't like it. That's a problem. You need to stop right there, acknowledge the fact, acknowledge to yourself, privately to yourself, and say, okay, I've done that before. I need to change my attitude. The second thing is exposure. One way that we can overcome our biases is by getting exposed to that culture, just like Anthony Bourdain showed us by traveling to the different countries, sitting down and making friends with people. What this does is it gets you familiar with the sounds of their language and how they speak. Even if they're speaking to you in English, you get familiar with these people, with their feelings, with their thoughts, and what's important to them in their lives. And you'll connect with them on a human level. And that is so much more important than all of the other stuff that we think that is different about each other, because they grew up under their own environment and their own circumstances, but that doesn't make them any less human than you are. Okay, the way they see it, you grew up in a different circumstances, and so they don't really understand your circumstance. So we all grew up in different circumstances, but that doesn't change our humanity. All right, so the next thing is, what you can do is you can get on Glossika, the language learning website, log into an account, and choose a language on there, and start listening to that language. And let the audio run, the bilingual sentences run. Do 1,000 reps. It'll take you a week if you're doing that one session a day. Let it run, get familiar with the language. I'm serious about this. And if you really want to make a connection with people, do 10,000 reps. Now the next thing is learn. You want to learn more about this culture and where these people come from. Learn about their country. Learn about their community. Learn things about them. You don't have to go travel across the world to meet people. Sometimes you can find the communities inside your own city, nearby cities. I am a polyglot, and I've learned many languages from around the world. When I meet somebody who is an indigenous person or an Aborigine person, and they tell me, or I find out somehow that they are, sometimes they're shy about it. But if you ask people, I will make an effort to actually speak to them in their own language, even if they don't have very good ability in their own language. At least I'm making a human connection there. And more often than not, you get that, damn, wow, that's amazing. How did you know that? How could you greet me in a language that nobody's ever heard of before, or nobody even knows about? And that just creates this feeling like human connection. And that human connection makes somebody else feel like you have researched who I am and where I'm from, and you know that I exist and my community exists, and it means something special. Like you actually respect my identity. Okay, so respecting people's identities, you don't have to go and become fluent in something or spend 10,000 hours learning something, but you can at least make a small effort to meet people when you meet people and greet them in their own languages. You can tell them, I don't speak your language, but I can say a few things just to be nice. And just remember, even the languages that we do adore, we think they sound beautiful, and like French. When you go to France and you speak the language wrong, they don't like it. But when you're a foreigner and you speak the language really well, the French love you all to hell. So remember that having a good pronunciation and doing your best at it and really working hard at it does go the extra mile. So with some communities, they don't ever expect somebody else outside to speak their language. That'll blow them away. In other communities like French, try to do more than the next person and do a really good job with that. Your final step is machine translation. Machine translation is a great tool, and it's getting better and better, and it creates a connection between us, and it can get you out of a lot of bad situations. You need a taxi, you need to get some food, you need to get somewhere you're going, but machine translation removes the human connection that our human languages have. The machine translation translates into the standard languages, the official languages, which is the official sounding stuff, and what you want is to connect with people on the human level. And so it's really important to learn how to speak languages, even at the most basic level, okay? And the one thing I wanted to add there with learning to understand that foreign language, how does that break down the bias? Number one is you stop listening to all the ching-chong, bork-bork sounds that they're making, and you actually pay attention to what they're saying. It's amazing because you'll actually start listening to people and you'll start understanding their point of view in the world. And that makes a huge difference in making you a better person. So think about it. By the end of the year, you can actually start to take these steps and you can become a better person next year than you were this year or the year before, just by taking these simple steps. Open your mind, listen to the languages from around the world, and realize that people have a voice. Listen to their voice. So here's my challenge to you. The very last thing I want you to do is I want you to think real deep in your mind and try to find what is the one language that you hate the most. And I want you to go spend a whole month face to face with the sounds of that language, face to face with the faces of these people, and try and make an effort to listen and understand them. You don't have to learn their language, but I'm just telling you, you can do it through the audio-based training method that Glossika provides, and you can get exposed to the language and it'll break down your biases. And maybe you'll have a greater respect for the people out there, and we can reduce the amount of hatred in the world. Thank you for listening.